everybody, it's that time again, Tuesday, for the AHYSEN Nation show, and we are glad to have you with us today. Hi there, I'm Johnny AHYSEN, and today we have a very, very interesting show, and I'm certainly hoping that parents are going to watch this show because it's going to be very important for parents of any age child. The organization we're talking with today is an organization called the Baton Rouge Children's Advocacy Center. It's not CASA. That's a different organization, similar but different. You'll find out why. It's been around since 1985 nationally. In Baton Rouge, it's been around since 2002. And we have the executive director on with us, Tony Bankston. And before we get to Tony, I guess the best way to introduce you to this organization is to show you a short video. So take a second and watch.
And I get nervous thinking what you gonna do. She grabbed you by the arm, I'm thinking I'm through. Then you look back at me and suddenly I'm helpless. Oh, look at those eyes. Oh.
Who here has had to go to court before? Raise your hand if you had to go to court before. Okay. So does this look familiar to anyone?
It's a judge court.
It's a judge court. So who sits up here?
The judge.
The judge. Okay. And who sits right here?
The witness.
The witness. What does the witness do?
It tells anything that they saw what happened.
Yeah, they saw what happened or what happened to them, huh?
We encounter children who have experienced various types of trauma, from witnessing a homicide, witnessing domestic violence, directly experiencing sexual abuse or physical abuse.
Just think how threatening the courtroom scene is for an adult. Then you take a child, you put a child in that same position, and we now, as prosecutors and public, I guess, expect a child to perform and take the stand and articulate bad things that were done to that child or bad things that child saw. And this system, the CAC work and their workers just do such a good job at easing that tension for that child.
When the children and the parents or caregivers walk through the door, there is a transition process. Because now they're dealing with, okay, I have to address what actually happened. You know, it's like a surreal moment for them. There's a moment that the child may come out and just, you know, cry just because they've kind of brought that trauma that actually occurred in full view.
There are a number of different types of trauma. It could be a trauma from a loss of a loved one. It could be a trauma from being witness to something that was traumatic, like a shooting or just an accident. It could be anything like that. And so the CAC provides a great opportunity for these young people to have an outlet.
We recognize that trauma happens not only in the mind, but it happens in the body. So we offer yoga or Tai Chi or Qigong, meditation, and guided imagery.
The people think that the easy way to deal with that is forget it. Just close your eyes, don't do anything. But that stays with you and later it comes. So the way that here they help us is we talk, we bring it up, and the way that they, you know, with the people that have knowledge and experience, they help us how to survive.
We think of our work as not only helping children at this really critical time in their life when their brains are developing and we're trying to help them have a good start, we're also keeping the end game in mind, which is we're helping all of society in that we're hoping to reduce social problems that we know are going to happen if trauma is not addressed appropriately.
The primary connection we have with the Children's Advocacy Centers is in the realm of forensic interviews. So we are so grateful for this resource. It's a critical resource to our state agency. It allows children to be interviewed one time, which minimizes their trauma.
In law enforcement, we used to have to bring our children, our victims, into an interrogation room essentially because there was no kid-friendly or even home-style friendly environment. But here at the CAC, the interviewer is in a completely separate room with the victim, asking all the questions, making them feel comfortable and giving them opportunity to talk about what happened to them. And they have a viewing room where law enforcement or other detectives or whoever needs to be in the room to view the interview for their investigation. And then if we need to ask additional questions, The forensic interviewer in the other room checks in with us periodically and says, is there anything else you need us to cover? And so essentially we're all working together to get the whole story about, what happened.
I'm Madison Henderson. I'm 16. I go to Baton Rouge High, and I was sexually abused by my stepfather when I was 12. You think to yourself, especially when it happens to you, your first thought is, how did this happen to me? What is this 1 in a billion chance that I happen to be, this victim, that I happen to be his choice? I told one of my 7th grade English teacher on Thursday, and all of a sudden, I'm being interviewed a constant amount of times. I'm talking to police officers, I'm talking to attorneys, and it was such an emotionally filled moment where I had to, tell this thing that I'd been holding in for like 6 months of my life.
I had no idea what was going on. I had no idea that her stepfather, my ex-husband, or husband at the time, had been sexually abusing her. As a mom, that I will carry that guilt for the rest of my life, that I brought a man into our lives that hurt my child. I would have never thought she was being sexually abused.
When I first met Madison, she had the attitude is, I'm over this, I don't care what happens, and I knew as a prosecutor that that wasn't accurate. While the case was going on, I did retire, but this was a special case. They're all special, but I particularly wanted to see this case through. I knew that Amy was taking Madison to the Baton Rouge Children's Advocacy Center. I would be in touch with Gino, just making sure that Madison and the family were doing okay.
Madison, when it first came in, the family, there was some of the dynamics of the family, there was a lot of anger. I tell her there's 3 ways you come out of sexual abuse. 1, you can become a perpetrator, just like the person who hurt you. Second way I say is you can become a victim. The third way, and that's what I wanted Madison to see, is a hero. They want to protect children because of something horrific happened to them.
So I have a little sister she's 6 years old now, and if I hadn't said anything, by the time she was 12, the exact same thing would have happened to her. In a way, it was me saying this stopped him from doing that, and stopped him from doing it for different people.
The DA actually was concerned that whether she could testify or not. And as I watched her grow and empower herself, she wanted to testify. She not only wanted to testify, she wanted to make a statement at that trial. And she did.
I was emotionally drained, I was wrecked, my mom was the exact same way, and I get here and it's kind of like I was normalized. It was something they deal with every day, something that they had experience with, and I could get help. And it was a little, overwhelming at first, but eventually it became somewhat of a safe place where I could talk about whatever I wanted to talk about.
The Baton Rouge Children's Advocacy Center has provided me a vehicle to get Madison help, but to also meet other parents and to know that it's not my fault, and that other good mothers and fathers miss signs too. I look at her now and how that light is back, and she's got the spark again, and she's creative and she's brilliant, and she's putting herself out there. And so truly it took the work of her counselors, of Gino, of the Baton Rouge Children's Advocacy Center to bring my baby back.
People who come to work at the CAC are not here because they want to make money. They're here because they really want to serve children who are the most vulnerable in our city.
This CAC is needed, it's significant, it's beneficial.
Most of the work goes unseen, unheard of, until you come to the court, until you see that child, you see that victim, you see that family, and you give them their life back, you give them some hope.
And that's really what the goal is to try to minimize re-victimization and have these people that have been abused become survivors.
When you have a wound on your arm and you're walking around and it's throbbing all the time and you're not doing nothing but putting a Band-Aid on it, you're going to have that pain for the rest of your life. But here, if we're going to put the medication, we're going to stitch it up, we're going to do whatever you need to do to heal that wound. And I want the kids to see, do not let the first 25 years of your life ruin the next 50.
this can absolutely ruin you. It can absolutely destroy your life. But the thing is whether or not you're gonna let it destroy your life. And this gives you the ability to take your life by like the reins and like put it back the way you want it to go. It's phenomenal here. They do great work.
On a hot night, laughing at my sister as she's dazzling the room. Then you walked in and my heart went boom. Trying to catch your eye from the side of the ballroom. Everybody's dancing in the band's top volume. Crying to the rhythm as we wine and dine. Grab a sister and whisper, you're this one's mine.
And Tony Bankston joins us. I was so scared to death I was going to call you Braxton, Tony Braxton, and I may yet. Thank you for coming in. What a powerful video we just watched.
It is. It's pretty incredible. It's been a very powerful tool for us in the community. From my perspective, it captures things that really you can't capture in words when you're just talking to the community about what the CAC does.
CAC on a national level, I think, was founded, I saw in 1985, and then in 2002, it was Baton Rouge, is that correct?
Right, that's when we got our charter to
Okay.
become an official CAC, one of 900 in the country, one of around 14 in the state.
Now, you and I were watching the video, and it pretty much focused most of the video on being sexually abused as a young person and things like that, but you also deal with people that see or are involved in violent crime.
Correct.
Can you speak on that just a little bit for me?
Right. Well, the story in the video is featured a victim of sexual abuse, so that's why there's so much in the video about that. But actually, any child who comes to our CAC has either been a victim or a witness to a violent crime, and that could be physical abuse to the body, and it could be witnessing domestic violence or witnessing, unfortunately, a homicide, as well as sexual abuse.
What, so walk me through what you are and what you aren't, because I think I mentioned last week on the phone with you, this is not CASA, the court-appointed advocacy group.
That's
so
right.
what are you and what are you not?
So the CAC, like the model that we are modeled after throughout the country, is a place that's meant to be sort of a one-stop shop in a way for children who've been impacted by violent crime. There's several different components to a CAC, and that differs across parishes, it differs across states. The Baton Rouge CAC, we have first and foremost is our forensic investigation component, and that's where we provide trained interviewers who are not members of law enforcement, not wearing a badge, not wearing a gun, and they are trained to elicit information from children after a crime has happened in a way that's not re-traumatizing. And while they're giving that information and we're gathering it, which is recorded, we have a team of people in another room, law enforcement, child protection, who are observing the video. That video then becomes evidence and is an important tool in the case for prosecution that should come forward hopefully after an arrest is made. So that's one piece. The other piece that we do, the other big piece, is we do mental health services. So once a child wraps up the investigation piece of the service, then they can immediately go into a therapy environment where all of the therapists are licensed. They're all very heavily trained in how to work specifically with trauma. So there's the big field of mental health, of which trauma is a very specific area, and there are standards. And our team is there trained in how to deliver that service in a way that's kid-friendly, and then also is specific for trauma that's experienced by children. And then some of the other, those are two of the main things that we do, but we also partner with our medical partners, Our Lady of the Lake, the Children's Hospital, so we partner with them to address cases that come to the ER. where there will be a medical forensic exam of the child. Our sexual assault nurse examiners are also part of our medical partnership, which is operating through the coroner's office. They do the sexual assault forensic exams. We also go into schools and into the community talking to both children and adults about childhood trauma. Everything you need to know about childhood trauma, how it shows up, and how you can respond to it in a way that doesn't re-traumatize, which is a big issue in the schools because teachers are in the front lines of trauma every day, and they need these tools to be able to know how to respond to it when it shows up. And then I feel like I'm missing so we also do advocacy. So there's someone who, a few people on our team whose job it is to link families to resources. So they come in because a crime happened that their child observed or experienced. But we're also looking for other things like addiction, homelessness, and domestic violence, and we're assessing all of those things, and we're helping families get connected to the services that they need. And then we also, we do go to court. We are not like CASA in the sense that CASA, they're special appointed court advocates. Right. We do partner a lot with CASA, and in fact, CASAs are often co-located with CACs. Not so much in Baton Rouge, but they have a very specific population of children who've been placed into foster care, and also it's mostly volunteer-based. So they are an important ingredient in our community's work with children who've been impacted by crime, but we are very different in what we do.
So would someone come to you if they were bullied at school?
Possibly.
Would someone come to you if they saw mom and dad fighting?
Yes. If that led to a police report, if the fighting led to an incident that was reported to police or child or DCFS, we would see that child.
But if not, though, if it wasn't a police report involved?
Correct, because the other thing I didn't mention is that the children come to us by referral of DCFS or law enforcement.
Okay, I follow you now. So, so something's going on inside the house. Like the young lady in the video is now 21 and lives in Chicago, you were telling me? How's she doing after that? I mean, she was abused by her stepdad, and her mom wasn't aware of it at the time. So that makes it very uncomfortable. You don't, your stepdad's probably, this is between you and I, and so you can't go to your mom. How does that work to where they open up? How can they, how did she come to your attention?
So her name is Madison, and she's a lovely young woman. Madison is actually sort of evolved in her own process to be somewhat of a spokesperson for the CAC. She's, as you saw, she helped create that video. She's since made a follow-up video. She's doing really well in Chicago, where she received a scholarship, and she is a theater major. It has something to do with theater.
I saw some theater in the video. We saw some of that.
But she, Madison to me embodies what we want for all of our victims who come through our center, because there's a final stage in healing, Johnny, that you go through your therapy, you get your healing, you address what happened to you, and then there's just this desire that most victims have, most survivors have, to help other survivors. And that's exactly what Madison's doing. In addition to being a very busy full-time student, and she works, she uses every opportunity that she has to really be a voice for other victims. And in fact, a couple of years ago, she actually went to the legislature and spoke out in committee publicly about there was a bill in front of the legislature to let sex offenders out early. And she spoke out against that and told her story in this very crowded room. She has tremendous courage. So that's a little bit about Madison. Madison came to us during a time when the CAC was really still being embraced by our law enforcement as a new model in the city. And she, like many victims, found that one person that she could trust. Happened to be in the school environment, which is often the case. Children, there's so much secrecy, whether it happens with a stepfather or a stranger down the street. There's a lot of secrecy and something that we call grooming, where victims are really sort of trained in a way by perpetrators to not tell. Sometimes it's through threat, Sometimes it's through, you know, giving them treats and things that they like, gaining their trust.
Kind
but
of
ultimately,
buying their silence.
Absolutely. And without the silence and the secrecy, sexual abuse would not continue. And in her case, she told that one person, and that one person told other people, and finally she was able to get help. And it's not, you know, I know Madison's mom. Madison's mom embodies what we would want all of our victims' moms to be, because she has been 100% supportive of her. But children often don't tell their parents. And that's something that's really hard for our parents to understand when they come in, because they say things like, I told my child everything. I told them they could talk to me. Why wasn't I the first person that they told? And the truth is that children know that this is something that's going to really be upsetting to my mom. Or maybe the perpetrator has told them things like, if you tell this, our family's going to get destroyed, or they're going to put your mama in jail. So there's a lot of reasons why children don't tell their parents, and they're pretty valid reasons from the kid's point of view.
Like in the case of Madison, I got to believe as a parent, like her mom was mortified. Does her mom get benefits from your organization, being traumatized herself?
Yes.
And the guilt over not being closer to the kid, or whatever it might have been, you know, whatever her feelings might be, whether they're true or not.
Yeah, so those are all, you're actually naming some things that we see a lot. So the CAC, our primary services target the victim. But if you're a parent of a child that's been abused, you know, I mean, I have 4 children. When your child is hurt, you're hurt. And it's the same thing when they've been a victim of violent crime. So we actually have group services for our parents. There are sessions that are integrated into the child's therapy to encourage the parents' healing, and if necessary, to help them have a better understanding of how they might prevent this in the future. So that's all a part of the child's therapy. And we also have partnerships with other therapists in the community to whom we can refer those adults for therapy. But yes, so, you know, when your child is hurt, it's an innate feeling to feel guilty. You feel responsible as a parent.
Yeah, you and I were talking off the air, and you've got your fingers are all into the community with regard to the mental health areas of our community. So give me some background on yourself. I mean, you and I know several of the same people here in the community. We talked about Jay Martinez, a great therapist here in Baton Rouge. Lisa Lipsey, a fantastic therapist here in Baton Rouge.
Very dear
and
friend.
you yourself were also in private practice for a long time. So you are well connected for the position you now hold at CAC.
Yes, that's really come in handy to be connected to all those folks, because they'll tell you that I do believe in calling on them for help. So yes, I was in private practice for a number of years, and the common thread in all the work that I've done has been working with children who are traumatized, and also working with children who are at disadvantage for a number of reasons. And when I was in private practice, I noticed that the kids that I gravitated to, or the referrals that I gravitated to, were my little foster kids, and working with DCFS. So when I left for a while to get my own children kind of raised and off to school, when I came back, specifically because of Katrina, I had an opportunity to leave private practice world and enter into the nonprofit world. So ever since then, I've really been working with people who are traumatized either through natural disasters. I had a little bit of a time that I spent working with our homeless community here in Baton Rouge when the one-stop shop was being built. But my love really is working with trauma, and that's how I landed at the CAC. I actually came to the CAC as a consultant to start their mental health program, because at the time they didn't really have one developed. And I just fell in love with the model. I saw social workers doing things that I'd never seen before. Like, where else would I find this intersection of experience where you're working with law enforcement, you're working with judges, you're working with hospital, teachers, everyone coming together to focus on this one child. In private practice, you're a lot isolated. You're the only person treating this child. Here, I saw an entire team, we call it our MDT, really focused on what's best for this child, and that tremendously excited me, and came on board as a therapist. And then when the director then, Sharon Paul, who really was very enormously helpful in getting our CAC off the ground, when she left, I had an opportunity to become the CEO. And that's the story of how I landed here.
That's amazing, and I love your context in the industry. We talked about my huge support for mental health, and in my personal life, there's no stigma about it. I have no problem talking about it. I have no problem inviting people to go and interview a therapist, because this is a two-way street. It's got to be a hand and glove fit. Mine is. You and I were talking about that as well. But I think you offer something with your background in this particular market that would be tremendously beneficial to parents, like her parent, Madison's mom, that might need therapy that would be outside of the jurisdiction of CAC. You can put them in touch with people in the city where they could go get some counseling, to make sure that they don't harbor this guilt that shuts their life down after a kid goes off to college.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? So
Absolutely.
I think that's huge.
Well, and we were talking earlier about some of the people we know in common, and I think about using those people as a resource. So one population that the CAC doesn't work as much with are the offenders of sexual abuse. Yet we absolutely want to be a resource for them because we want this to end. And we know that if we get offenders when they're juveniles and they're adolescents, they're less likely to do the crime, become repeat offenders. So I think of Jay Martinez as an example of someone that I reached out to that I knew from years ago, and that happens to be an area that he works in, is working with offenders. You've really got to, if you want to really make an imprint in this area, you've got to cast a really wide net, and you've got to have a lot of tools in your tool belt. That offender was probably once a victim.
I was going to ask you about that. How many juvenile offenders were also a victim?
Many. So in general, when you look at people that commit crime, and y'all recently did a special on this, but most people who commit crime have childhood trauma in their background. We know this from the science and from the literature, and that includes people who offend on children. And so, and it's interesting, not all victims become offenders, but a majority of offenders are people who were victimized. And so what we know from the studies is that if we concentrate on them when they're younger, once they're in their 30s, it's hard to rehabilitate people. But when you get them when they're young, you actually have some hope. And we can actually uncover things that are unidentified from earlier that just went missed. Trauma is very common, which is why it shouldn't be a secret to talk about it. It's very common in childhood. And because it's very common, we should be on the lookout for it. And if we're on the lookout for it everywhere that children are, then we're more likely to identify them and get them help. Because the other thing is, trauma's common, it's also missed. It's missed, it's misdiagnosed, and so we have to do a better job of kind of identifying trauma when it shows up in our children and giving them an early intervention.
Fascinating organization. We could go on and on, but I don't want to get you out of here without talking about this big event this Thursday at the L'Auberge Casino in the big ballroom there. It's the big annual celebrity waiter event. Our WAFB Jay Grimes will be out there, so you can go and harass him, still selling tickets. Now, this has become a little bit more important to you in the recent past because you've lost some funding, and this is a nonprofit. So funding is an issue. Put that on top of all nonprofits are struggling, I think, not the least of which the COVID crisis and some other things. But this is going to become a major fundraiser for you guys.
It is. So Celebrity Waiter is a fantastic, fun-filled event. And it is really, truly like a community effort because the celebrity waiters come from all parts of society, from the sports world, the news media world. And everybody comes together this one night on behalf of children and on behalf of the CAC. It's a very competitive, party-like, spirited, informal atmosphere, a lot of fun. And it serves an important role of safety net for our services. So most of our services are grant funded. We work with government, but we're not 100% supported by government in any way. We have to really raise our own funds. And as you spoke of, Johnny, because of the pandemic, you know, the economic environment has completely changed, and that includes the funding circle or the grant circle. So there have been cuts, there have been eliminations. So yes, this year the celebrity waiter becomes even more critical and vital for our organization.
How do we get tickets for this? Is this Thursday, 7 to 10, I'm thinking?
Yes, 7
at
to 10
L'Auberge.
At L'Auberge, and you can just go online to our website, which is www.batonrouge, spelled out CAC.org. And you can go on. We need ticket buyers, but we also need people to contribute to tip jar. So Jay, right now, you can go to our website and you can go to Jay's tip jar and you can put a tip in his jar. And those tips translate to dollars for our organization that go directly to services. So you can attend the event, but you can also be an important part of the event even without attending.
That is so awesome. So Baton Rouge, spell out Baton Rouge, CAC.org is the website, and just navigate around to get tickets for the big celebrity waiter event. Now, you do some other things during the year or no?
That's really our annual fundraiser.
Which is now huge,
right, and
unfortunately.
we're looking at, as we've grown and expanded, adding some more things. We also, another funding stream for us is we actually use our expertise to go out into the community and provide fee-for-service workshops. So we can go into communities for a fee, and although a lot of times we do it in certain sectors on a volunteer basis as well. And I think that off the top of my head, we don't have any other major fundraisers or any actual smaller fundraisers, but we recently expanded our board and we're looking at other creative ways of raising money.
That's fantastic. Where is the physical location? This is not a secret, hidden location for folks to go in and get your services.
Yes, it's not a secret. We don't. This is not a residential care facility, so children are not staying there. We are located in Mid-City on East Boulevard. We had one main house that was retrofitted to house our forensic program. We recently expanded a couple of years ago to now have a second house, which is 3 doors down from the original house. We're in the area that people probably would identify with St. Agnes Church. It's near that area and not too far from the Channel 9 station, actually. And we have 2 buildings there.
Is that what we saw in the video a few minutes ago?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
Yes, that's the main building. But
It
the other thing,
it looked kind of New Orleans this year. It looked kind of nice.
it's Victorian.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's it was, I think it was built at the turn of the century in the 1900s. So it is an old building. It is it's on the registry, in fact. So, but the other thing is that we're also mobile. So we have 4 parishes: East Baton Rouge, West Baton Rouge, Point Capee, and Iberville. And because of that, we go into our other parishes and bring the services to people where we that are in our jurisdiction. So yes, we have these homes, but we also travel.
Man, that is fantastic. You guys are doing so many great things in the community, and we just need to get the word out for people to. Do you need volunteers? And I'm sure you train the volunteers.
We do.
And you vet them pretty.
We do.
Yeah.
Well, all of our employees and our volunteers and even our board members have to go through a rigorous background check and vetting process. But we do train our volunteers. And if you're a volunteer, there are so many things that you can do. A lot of our volunteers love the fact that if they want to, they're actually able to directly help clients. But not everybody wants to do that. Sometimes people want to do clerical work or answer the phone. So if you're interested in volunteering, there's so much for you to do at the CAC.
And that is just awesome. And don't forget about the big celebrity waiter event this Thursday. We're going to probably showing this. This is Tuesday right now, so day after tomorrow. But we may rerun this program tomorrow and on Thursday as well to kind of get more interested folks to go. So tickets are still available?
Yes.
All right, great. Fantastic. And the food, I hear, is
really
you're
great.
not going to go away hungry.
Thanks for mentioning food, because the ticket includes food. It includes, your tickets include the buffet and wine and beer.
Fantastic.
Yeah. And you can have it delivered by someone like Hiller Moore. I mean, because these are our waiters. Our waiters are celebrities for the night.
Well, we know Hiller, we know Jay Grimes will be there and some others, so that'll be a fun event. Tony Bankston, I told her at the beginning of the show, I'm going to call you Tony Braxton because it's my favorite female singer in the world.
Love her.
But Tony Bankston, you guys are doing such great stuff. Thank you so much for coming in. We're double vaccinated, so we could sit here without our masks. And that was awesome for you to come in today. Again, great visiting with you.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for everything that you all do to give back to the community.
Anything that you guys need promoted or helped with in the future, let us know.
Will do. Will do. Thank you, Johnny, so much.
When I was 12 years old, I was abused by my stepfather. Everything in my life had just changed. The biggest thing that the Baton Rouge Children's Advocacy Center helped me with was regaining a sense of normalcy in my life. I wasn't going to a police station, I was just going to a house. And if you are a child that has been hurt, I want you to know that you are not alone and that you can get help from places like the Baton Rouge Children's Advocacy Center.